Hello everyone, this is Diamond Sodi from Canwings Consultants Private Limited. Today I've come to you with 10 most common concerns that I feel people have as far as skilled migration to Australia or specifically 491 visa is concerned, and we're going to talk about them one by one. So the first concern a lot of people have about the 491 visa is that what is the cutoff for the 491 visa? Now I've been saying it in my videos earlier, and I've been stressing on the fact that the 491 state-sponsored visa is not subject to any cutoff or invitation rounds. There is no requirement for scoring very high in terms of your point score, because as long as you're meeting the eligibility criteria of the state that is offering you nomination, you're good to go. So it is not necessary at all that you need to score 80, 85 or 70, 75 in order to be eligible for nomination. So please stop asking, please stop looking for the cutoff of 491 state-sponsored visa, because there isn't any. Yes, if you're talking about the 491 visa which is relative sponsored, that of course those applications are selected on the basis of merit, on the basis of higher scoring applications, and those of course are subject to the invitation rounds, but not the 491 state-sponsored visa. So the next question I'm going to take up is that are the nominations off or closed for offshore migrants? My answer to that question is temporarily yes. At this point of time, all the states in Australia are focused on giving nominations to onshore applicants, and whatever interim lists have come out, those are practically meant for those people who are living in Australia at this time and not for offshore applicants. Having said that, I'd also like to show you that the main lists for each state for the year 2020-21 will be released in the month of October. 6th October is the day when the states are expected to be allocated their annual budget by the Immigration Department, following which the states will start releasing their lists for occupations and start accepting the nominations. And South Australia has already declared that it will begin accepting applications in mid of October. So yes, in about a month's time, the nominations will be available for offshore applicants as well. So this is a good time for you to move on with your skills assessment. Now the next question, and this is not a new question, we've been hearing it for a long time. People still ask, is 491 visa a TR, a temporary resident visa? Now I'm trying to think how to answer this question for you, because yes, technically speaking, it is not permanent resident visa. However, it is a visa that will take you to permanent residence. So it is a permanent resident pathway visa. At the same time, it is not a temporary visa as well, because a temporary resident visa is one wherein you go to Australia for a specific purpose, for example, let's say a work visa, and you expected to return to India after the visa completion period. However, under the 491, you're not expected to return. It is a migrant visa. The visa is being granted to you with a very clear understanding that you intend to settle there permanently along with your family. And once you complete 3 years of stay in Australia, you can apply for permanent residence and not come back to India. So no, it is not a temporary visa in the sense that you're asking. Now, the question people do ask is that, okay, fine, we've lived in Australia on a 491 visa for 3 years. So what after that? What do we do? Do we meet the point test again? Do we need to look at the occupation list again? Do we need to look at the current immigration rules again? So my answer to that is not at all. All you need to do is that make sure that you've complied with the 2 conditions set forth for the visa holders. That is, you should have lived in the regional area for 3 years, and you should have attained the minimum threshold income specified by the Immigration Department. Once you've complied with these 2 conditions, you can apply for permanent residence visa, which is called 191 visa. And you, along with your family, will get a permanent resident status, and that is the time when you can even choose to move to another state from the state that you've actually fulfilled your obligations in. Now, the next very common question again is how achievable or how doable it is to earn an income of $53,900 in a year. Now, a lot of people like to smirk it off and discourage people by saying that, oh, it is so difficult to get this kind of income in Australia. It's so hard. How can you even get that kind of an income? So please let me assure you that first of all, you need to understand that the reason, see, the immigration department has basically made it easier for people to migrate to Australia by allocating them more points for nomination, by giving them additional points for being single or claiming points under partner skills and so on. So obviously they're not going to set an income threshold which is not possible for people to achieve. And a lot of times this hearsay that is coming around concerning the income level being too high, it's by applicants who are there on a student visa and on limited or let's say part-time work rights. So for them to be achieving this kind of an income in Australia may seem a little difficult, but for somebody who's migrated there and has work rights similar to that of an Australian citizen, this is not at all an unrealistic figure. So please do not get discouraged by this hearsay. Now the next question I will be talking about is whether IELTS, PTE or any other acceptable English proficiency score is mandatory for the spouse. I don't know if you're aware or not, but it is not mandatory. We have a lot of applicants whose spouses have studied in English medium during their bachelor's degree. Therefore, they are exempted from taking this English proficiency test. However, for those who have not studied in English medium or done their bachelor's degree with English as a medium of instruction and examination, they need to score functional level English, and the definition of functional level English is an overall 4.5 bands, which is very, very easy for anyone to score. Now with this, I'd like to also quickly come down to another question which I've been asked by a few people, and that is that do we need to prove our English proficiency at the time of applying for a 191 visa? Once they've lived on 491 visa for 3 years and they want to now apply for permanent residence, that is 191, do they need to take the IELTS again? Because a lot of people are saying, ma'am, we've read on the immigration website that you need to have functional English again. So I'd just like to clarify here that probably you're not interpreting it correctly. What happens is, for example, of course you do not need to take your IELTS again, your spouse doesn't need to take it, but let's say that you migrated to Australia with a child who was, let's say, 16 years old at the time you got your 491 visa. And after 3 years, when you're applying for a 191 visa, the child is obviously above 18 years of age. So anybody who's above 18 years of age needs to demonstrate a functional level English by either proving that they've studied in English medium or by scoring 4.5 bands in English. So obviously when you got your 491 visa, you satisfied the condition of having at least competent English, and your spouse satisfied the condition of having functional English, and if you had any child over 18 years of age, also satisfied the condition. However, any child who will be turning crossing the age of 18 at the time of your filing for the permanent residence will need to prove that he or she has functional level English. So I hope that issue is clear and sorted. And then the next one I'd like to come up with is an interesting question, that is 190 better than 491? Now I have some of my clients who tell me that, ma'am, we will wait for 190, we don't want to go under 491, hum 190 mein hi jayenge. So please let me tell you here that again there are lots of myths concerning the 491 visa. It's untrue to think that 190 is much better. No doubt 190 is permanent residence from here itself. But if you actually look at the differences, there aren't many, other than the fact that under the 190 you can also live in the metropolitan areas of the state which has nominated you, and under the 491 visa you can only live in the regional areas. And practically speaking, regional, almost the entire Australia is regional now except for Sydney, Melbourne and another city. So in terms of your work rights, in terms of your social security benefits, everything is same under 491 as you get it in 190. So there isn't any difference in terms of benefits. It's just that it is the mindset we people have that probably, you know, with 190 you're going directly under PR, and there is no geographical restriction within the state. Whereas in 491 you can only stay in regional areas. And let me tell you, states such as Western Australia, such as South Australia or Tasmania or Northern Territory, the entire state is regional and there is no geographical restriction on the particular city where you can stay, live and work in. And the next question, again, an important one is that some people think and like to tell others that the Australia job market is really down because of the COVID, so probably it's not a good idea to even migrate to Australia. Well, let me tell you, if that was true, the Australian Immigration Department would not have released an interim list and calling people over to fill up the skills shortages even before the main 2020-21 plan releases. And they are going to come up with their migration plan because they do need people with the right skill set to come and fill in the skills shortages. So yes, there are enough jobs within Australia which the Australians cannot fill up, and they need people from overseas, from offshore, to come over and fill up those skills shortages. So that myth is of course clearly untrue. Now the next question I'm going to take up is that some people say that, you know, let's say we go on the 491 visa, and before we apply for 191 visa, which is a permanent residence, what if our circumstances change? What if our age turns out to be over 45, or our English proficiency test expires, and so on? So please understand this very clearly, that once you get your 491 visa, the point test no longer applies on you. You no longer need to be below 45 years of age or meet a certain 65 points or have a valid English proficiency test. So obviously, if any of those circumstances change, it is perfectly okay. It's not going to affect your chances of getting a 191 visa, because for getting a permanent residence, all you need to do is prove that you've lived in the regional area for 3 years and you've achieved a threshold income of $53,900 per year. Now the last question I'm going to take up today is that, is it mandatory to take the family along? Now it is not mandatory for you to include your family in your visa application. A lot of times people don't find it realistic to be taking the family along, so they don't apply for their visa at all. Whereas my suggestion is that please do apply for your family along with yours, because right now when they're migrating with you as your dependents, the fee that they pay to the immigration department will be far less than what they would be paying in case you decide to call them over later on. Once the visa is granted to you, there is an initial entry date given to you, which is usually up to 12 months. And what you can probably do is that you can move to Australia, relocate first, and once you've kind of settled in a bit, you can call your family over, but of course making sure that they're called over before the initial entry date. Or if you really think that probably you don't have the kind of money to invest into the immigration program, paying your family fee, then in that case, once you get your 491 visa, you are eligible to call your family over, but of course the cost associated with that would be a little higher. So those are the questions I wanted to take up with you today. Please do share any queries that you may have, and do send in your CVs for assessment on 78498, or please feel free to email us on canwings@gmail.com. that is CANWINGS@gmail.com. We'll be happy to look at it. And until the next session, bye bye and take care.